What up, everybody? It's your boy Adam, and I am back with another edition of the Hurry Up. I hope you guys are ready, because this is training camp edition with your boy, you know it, the Don Juan of Sports, Adam. So, let's get into this real quick. The New York Giants have started. That's right, the New York Giants have started their training camp season. And let's be honest, football season is here, folks. Football season is here. There is no needing to sugarcoat it anymore. There is no need to fake it. It is now here. It is this. Even Brian Daboll in his press conference yesterday, which, by the way, Brian Daboll, I really like what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are doing. They're really complimentary people right now, and they're really doing great things so far. But that's only so far. It's only as far as you can go, right? So let's see what they do. But let's get into this. It is training camp. It is here. First, before we start the show with the Giants training camp, I want to talk about this Kyler Murray thing. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. The fact that you have to put a clause into study for 4 hours a week, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. People, that's unacceptable. How dare you, have to put that in a clause? I mean, that just seems like, why would I want my franchise quarterback? That's like them saying, well, and this is a clause I probably put in for Daniel Jones if he becomes the quarterback next year, which I doubt it. Trust me. There are things I see at camp that, some people are like, yeah, great. And the other people are like, no, this guy, let me trust me. We'll get to that in a second. Well, you got to put that in your clause. The fact that, the fact that you have to study, that is ridiculous. Ridiculous. The fact that Kyler Murray has to have that in his clause or he loses money, this is going to be sticky. Very sticky situation here, man. Like, not that I didn't want it public, but how are you going to monitor that? How are you going to monitor 4 hours a week? Right? That's 4 hours a week. There's 7 days, and there are 6 days leading up to the game, 6 or 7 days leading up to the game, depending on, what day, right? So does he bang out those 4 hours in 2 days? Does he bang them out in 1 day? You know what I mean? If practice ends at what? Let's say 5 o'clock, right? 5 o'clock practices. I don't know when they break from practice in Arizona. I don't live there, nor do I care. But let's, for hypothetical purposes, say they break for training camp practice at 5, or they're basically done with their meetings for now, and then they go eat dinner, and then they're done, right? So let's say he gets back to the dorm room with all this at 8 o'clock, right? So does he then spend 8 to 10 o'clock studying football? I mean, there are so many little avenues and roads that are tough to deal with here. And if I'm Kyler Murray, I'm a little embarrassed at myself, because you're the quarterback of the team. You need to be forced to study. That's one thing. I mean, but it goes to show a lot of these guys probably do the same thing. They probably do the same thing. I mean, Michael Vick, I heard, didn't study at all. And so for me, I like money, so I'm going to study. But at the same time, when do you draw the line? Like, let's say he has a bad game, or the Arizona Cardinals miss the playoffs, and Kyler Murray struggles throughout the season. Are you going to say it's then, or are you going to say it's, where is the line drawn? You know what I mean? I don't know where the line can be drawn. Excuse me. I don't know where the line can be drawn, because it's basically performance-based, which everybody does performance-based jobs. I mean, think about it. I mean, my job does performance-based jobs, right? I mean, my career job does performance-based gigs, right? So they could honestly say to me, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So I don't know when you draw the line here. And I think if I'm Arizona, and I think we'll talk more about this on Premium Takes as well, about the Kyler Murray thing, because we'd love to get a couple of the guys' opinions on this, but I just think it's kind of lame for that. The other thing that's interesting, and we'll transition since we're talking quarterbacks before we get into the Giants and their training camp, is first, Kyler Murray shouldn't be forced to study. If he doesn't want to study, then don't give him the money, right? It's good. This is where it becomes like dicey, right? Because let's say they don't win the Super Bowl, or they lose the playoff game. How are you going to say are you going to log these things? Is he going to have to log them for you? Because most guys like Zach Wilson, he's a film junkie. They basically are turning off the lights at the stadium. He's still there watching the film. You either are or you aren't. This tells me Kyler Murray is not fully invested yet. And this is they're like, we're going to invest $130 million, whatever the contract was. Then you're going to need to invest 4 hours. They're saying minimum 4 hours. Like, that's it. 4 hours. I mean, you could do 1 hour a day for 5 days. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, why are you putting this in the clause? Reflects a lot more on Kyler Murray than it does the Arizona Cardinals, who, by the way, gave him an extension and it's been to one playoff game, and he failed in that playoff game. Now, I don't know if he was out partying in the playoffs, but this seems to be a problem, and that's a big problem if you're the Arizona Cardinals, because this should not be your issue. You should have to. Eli Manning was there, the first guy there, the last to leave. You know what I mean? And way last to leave. He used to take the receivers and do different things. This is the maturation of a quarterback. I understand it. You know, we all are at different levels of maturity, even in our 20s. I mean, for crying out loud, Zach Wilson is, what is he? He's in his mid-20s. I mean, God, he loves it. He loves it. He's a junkie. And when you're a football junkie, you shouldn't be asked to come in. You should just go in, right? And Kyler Murray apparently is not that. He is not that. He is a junkie. He needs to be a junkie. But anyways, we'll see what will happen with that, because I think that situation is going to get dicey as his career goes on. Only because, to be real with you, he has no real leg to stand on in terms of his failure rate. It's basically going to be based on his entire existence. On his entire existence. You know what I mean? Like, think about that. Think about that. Your job, you and I go to work every day. Well, some of us do. And you put in the time, put in the effort, and you put in everything that you need to put in to make this move, right? To make this move. And you try to take initiative, right, in jobs. But some jobs are going to guide you, and others are not. So they want him to put more time in to get better. So I just think it was a funny clause. But let's move on to another quarterback situation. Apparently, there's an open competition in Carolina. Now, for me, I think Baker Mayfield's going to win the job. We'll see what happens here. It could be Matt Corral for all we know. Maybe he is the best option. Matt Rule did not look confident in what he was saying. He looks like a man that knows his job is on the line, and he's in over his head. He's in over his head. He took the money. He ran. Got the opportunity to be in the NFL again. Right? He was in the NFL with the Giants for offensive line coach. He was a Temple coach, and then he went to Baylor. So now, I mean, if Baylor decides to fire their head coach, or he wants to walk away, he could walk away scot-free. It's a win. It's a lose-lose for Matt Rule, but at the end of the day, he knows he can go back to college, no problem. But he's basically fleecing the Panthers if he doesn't get anything done this year. Now, I think the Panthers' defense is very underrated. I think they're pretty good. I think solid defenses can keep you in ball games. It's whether or not you have solid quarterback play. And that's a big component of winning football games in the NFL, is having a quarterback that sometimes can elevate everybody around him. Because there are guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, prime example of this. and this will take us to the 49ers, right? The 49ers decided to name their starter Trey Lance. Good for them. I think it's going to work out for them, but because they have a good defense. And Shanahan is not going to put this kid in harm's way. Plus, to be honest with you, he's going to be able to do more with Trey Lance now than he was with Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember, he couldn't run the RPOs the same way he can run the RPOs now. He's going to change his whole offense to tailor-made Trey Lance, right? And if Trey Lance is worth a damn, he would have put in some work and throwing with his teammates. Maybe he gets better at certain aspects of it. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan is going to have to worry too much in terms of that. I mean, he's worked with Nick Mullins, who had a terrible talent. He has had Jimmy Garoppolo. He's had a couple quarterbacks come in and out of there who haven't been good, that have been serviceable, right? This guy, Trey Lance, doesn't need to be great. He just needs to be able to hand the ball off and keep things afloat. Know the down and distance. Know when to run. Simplify it for him now as he goes. Because I think the hardest part of being a quarterback and young is you give the kid the entire playbook and say, here, memorize this. Now, it's funny because you can't really limit the quarterback as you can limit a running back, because the running back is not there. It doesn't have to be in the game every time. The quarterback is literally touching the ball on every play. But that's how I would do it. Let him master a certain amount of plays. Maybe, let's say you have 200 plays. Let him master the first 50. Get those down. Master the next 50. This is how I would do it, right? So the fact that he's sitting around last year learning, it's on the coaches and the coaches' assistants to kind of help him get him up to speed, right? And the backup quarterback. Now, we'll find out if that's the move. That is a franchise-altering, job-altering move, especially with the quarterback crop that's coming out this year. Remember, the 2020 crop is interesting, right? Zach Wilson started his season in the 2020, the 2021 quarterback crop, right, with Mac Jones and all these guys. That is interesting, right? Because Mac Jones started right from jump. Zach Wilson started right from jump. I think a few other Justin Fields had some bumps on the road, but he eventually got in the game. And I'm sure there's a few others that I'm missing here. Oh, and Trey Lance was drafted as well. So it's interesting because of how, and obviously Trevor Lawrence started from the jump too. Can't forget about him. When you're looking at them, they got a leg up on Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance was kind of Patrick Mahomes in the way that he kind of got spot dutied, here and there, and kind of really refined his game. We'll see if it pans out the same way that it panned out in Kansas City, right? People remember, because people were talking about Mahomes not being great. We could find out right now if Trey Lance this season ends up being a baller, and I think he has the talent to do it. He had a lot of talent coming out. And we'll see if he can put it together. And again, Shanahan's a bright mind. And so it's just interesting to see three different teams with their quarterbacks having different possibilities of what may happen, which leads us back to the Giants. Training camp season is here. And like I said, I like what Brian Daboll is doing. I like what Joe Shane's doing. But I have to be honest with you, I'm calling bullshit. Because you watched their presser yesterday, they tried to talk about evaluating Daniel Jones. And they didn't really say much about it. They were like, yeah, we're going to let the process play itself out. So to me, I don't think they really want the kid to rest their laurels on. And I'm not trying to badmouth Daniel Jones. I'm just being real. Sometimes there are certain players you want to inherit, but a quarterback defines who you are, your legacy, failure or not failure. Daniel Jones is a failure of the old regime, but his legacy shouldn't be defined from Brian Daboll. And like I said, this is interesting to me because this reminds me of, like I said, 1997 when Jim Fossil came in and he started to build out his team. They wanted to fix Dave Brown. This guy's going to do it. Jim Fossil's going to fix Dave Brown. Sound familiar? And so he came in with a new offense, drafted offensive weapons because they didn't have many, right? They drafted Ike Hilliard and Tiki Barber that year to kind of help out the team, right? And so they did that. And then the next year, they drafted Sean Williams, who was the UCLA safety. But coming in, Dave Brown, was not good, and he ended up getting injured and then off the team. 97, and they ended up going with Danny Kanell and riding him out. And then 1998, they had a mixture of Danny Kanell and Kent Graham. And let me tell you, those were terrible quarterbacks as they were bridging because, again, the Giants didn't have back in the 90s, there weren't like 3 or 4 guys coming in at quarterback. There was like usually 1 or 2. And if you weren't at the top of the draft, you were giving them an arm and legs. The Giants were not doing that. Plus, the Giants were also frugal at that time. They didn't want to spend as much money as everybody else. They tried to, but they never really won. Case in point, 1995, the Giants were trying to get Deion Sanders, which really wasn't happening, but the Giants put in $30 million, and the Cowboys paid him an extra $5 million. Now, I have no idea. I was too young at the time to understand free agency, but I don't know if that was a true story or not. I think it was Deion being Deion and trying to get as much from the Cowboys as he could, knowing that he was leaving as a hired gun from the 49ers, because he went from Atlanta to the 49ers, won a Super Bowl, and then won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys as a hired gun. Played the remainder of his career as primetime because obviously that he was going to make the most money there, right? No matter what. Once he became a Cowboy, he became a household name. Even though he was a household name, going up to it, that kind of cemented his legacy, right? But anyways, what I'm saying is that, you can't. Jim Fossil didn't come in. Jim Fossil did not get his quarterback until 1999 when Kerry Collins ended up, falling to them. Right? And I know Jimmy Garoppolo is being mentioned with the Giants. I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo coming in here now. Next year, if you want to entertain that idea, Daniel Jones kind of struggles. You're kind of in the playoff hunt, but you're really not. But Daniel Jones is clearly you need an upgrade. And if you want to bring in Jimmy G, I get it. If you can't make that move, if you can't make the move up, and that's why I think getting the ammunition now was needed, right? And we don't know what's going to happen right now. We don't know what the Giants are going to do. I think there's going to be a few trades made in the offseason right now, leading up and during the season. I think the Giants should not be looking at this year as a playoff year. And even they said it. They're rebuilding, they're retooling, they're revamping, they're trying. When you revamp or redesign or recreate, yes, you're trying to keep a lot of the existing structure, but you have to redesign it and make it better. But that's going to take time. This is not a TV show where you can speed things up. There's a lot of moving parts. Like, there's guys I want to keep here who may not be here, like Leonard Williams. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a good defensive player. You don't get too many of those. And he's an above average to good defensive player, right? Those are guys you keep on the roster. You got Azeez Ojulari who might come into his own. Things like that. Like, you have a couple guys here that you can start to build, a core around, right? You're going to have, let's just look at the core, right? You're going to have outside linebacker, you have Thibodeau, Azeez, probably Ellerson Smith, maybe Quincy Roche, and I guess Jihad Ward for at least this year until you get another guy in. So you probably have a decent stable right there. Your middle linebackers, you're still kind of in flux. You don't really have your starter. Blake Martinez may or may not come back, but if he has a great season, you're not going to pay him. You're just probably not. Especially when you have Beavers and McFadden in the back as well. So I can see that, because if I'm Blake Martinez, unless he decides to take a pay cut, he's going to want more money. Remember, he signed that 3-year deal. This is the 3rd year of his contract, and he had a reduced salary. So if he has a good season, he's going to want to get paid. With that being said, there also is the adjustment of, the secondary, who, we'll see. I'm excited to see the young guys, but I also know that there's going to be some growing pains. Aaron Robinson's out there. Who really I think people are sleeping on these days is Darnay Holmes. Remember, he wasn't bad last year. He actually was pretty good. And then he got injured. And, went on IR. And then it kind of fell apart, right? You still had James Bradbury, you still had Dory Jackson. So you could kind of mask some of the the slot corner. But now he's one of the most experienced corners out there. He's a playmaker on that team. He comes up with interceptions. The interception he had in practice yesterday was pretty amazing when you think about it. He baited the quarterback. That's right. He baited Daniel Jones, who took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And as you watch the play, Daniel did not move from the spot. He said hike, and he knew he was going to 26. And Darnay Holmes was like, "Oh, you're going to go in my area, okay?" And now you're working in the red zone, so there's not. He knows he has help over the top. He knows that there's a lot going on in the middle, so he can take this chance. So he waited and baited, and Daniel Jones sat there and did what Daniel Jones does best: lock on to a receiver. And wouldn't you know it, interception. He had a second one that would have went to Wan'Dale Robinson if it wasn't for Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson almost had a pick six. Now, they're going to talk about the touchdown throws. The one to Tony was pretty good. Tony made a hell of an effort. There was a couple passes that he should have had, but he missed. They're going to blame the receiver on that one. That's fine. But there's some things I'm seeing at practice that aren't going to tell you because they're going to push this Daniel Jones narrative, good, bad, or otherwise. Like you watch Tyrod Taylor, like there was a sack that probably could have happened with Kayvon Thibodeau when the Golladay thing happened. Now, when the Tony reception happened. Now, I will never know because they're not wearing pads, but Kayvon looked like he probably was coming in clean. There's going to be things. Timing is going to be an issue with this receiving core. They've already said as much. Practice is different, people. I want to let you know that. They're trying to get things done at practice. So the quarterbacks have to throw the ball. The quarterbacks, even if they are sacked, have to throw the ball to complete the play. So we won't know if those plays are completed because if we put that scenario in a game, is Daniel Jones sacked there, right? He did also have a rushing touchdown. There's going to be a lot more kind of running with him. Everyone who keeps telling me Daniel Jones is a runner, he is not a runner, okay? He has the ability to run. That is what he was blessed with. He is not, to me, a runner. That is not what I want Daniel Jones doing. Kyler Murray, Tyrod Taylor got the name T-Mobile, not because he endorsed the phone company, but because he was moving around the pocket. That's a lot going on there. A lot going on. Sorry, folks. Had to grab my water, which is in the other room. So, but that's what I'm saying. Is that I'm not trying to bash DJ. I want him to do well. I want him to throw touchdowns. I'm excited about Kadarius Toney, boy. I am really excited about him. I think people need to get over this. He's not into football and all that garbage. It's garbage. Straight garbage. Now, if Shane and Daboll are really, really wanting to trade him, I could see this strategy happening. I could see them letting Toney increase his value. Then come mid-season or whatever the trade deadline is, I think it's week 9 or 10 or something like that. Toney's playing well, but Robinson's also playing well. Golladay not doing too bad, whatever, right? Some receiver goes down, a la Robert Woods in LA, right? And all of a sudden, Kadarius Toney is now on the block, and you get him a second-round pick for him. Even though he's a first, but he's playing well, he's balling out. What if Kansas City decides, you know what? We don't have a lot of talent here. Sorry, folks. I'll be right back. Sorry, folks. I know there's only like one of you watching, but duty calls to being a dad. It takes precedent over a show, unfortunately, and yeah, sometimes you have to do that. Anyways, what I was saying is like Kadarius Toney, and they're saying that he has like Odell Beckham abilities, which I tend to agree with. I tend to think that that was essentially what they wanted to bring him in for. He's going to be a playmaker, the guy that you're needing to account for every time. Defenses you're going to have to game plan for. What's up, Randy? How's it going, man? Thanks for stopping by. But I think for me, Kadarius is going to be a weapon, and I am excited to see what Daboll can do. Right, and I think we're going to see a lot of questions answered. I know people are like, "Oh, playoffs and all this stuff." I think someone brought up a good point. If you know what Jimmy G is, right? You know what Jimmy G's going to be, right? Like he's not going to be better than he is. Then my point is that's what many players are. Are you going to pay these guys the money that they're worth to win games, right? You can only go off of production. And I think we know what Daniel Jones is. He's just an average guy. But we'll find out. I'm really excited to see how they're going to go. And defensively, they look like they're going to be a lot of fun up front. We'll see what Wake Martindale has in store. But they seem like they're going to be a lot of fun up front. However, I will tell you this, that something that's alarming to me that still seems to be happening is they're not picking up any pressure like with this Wake Martindale defense, right? And people will start to figure that out, what their weakness is. And I think right now, the overload blitz is their problem. Now, I know everybody overloads, but if they miss an assignment due to being outworked and outmanned, or, people make mistakes on the football field. It happens. Even the best of them have done it. Jerry Rice, folks, has drafted a pass or two in his career. He'll tell you otherwise, but I'm sure you can find film. Actually, go look at his first year in the league. Guy was dropping passes left and right. Thought he was a bust. But, I digress. My point is that, we have to see how they're going to hold up because they're using Barkley outside a lot, which tells me they're probably going to do a running back by committee. Barkley's going to be everywhere. I'd like to see Antonio Williams get some carries. I saw that he made a catch in the end zone from Tyrod Taylor. If he can show any type of ability to catch the football out of the backfield, he'll have a little bit of a decent, shot at making this ball club. Him, Matt Breida, and then I think Joshua Corbin, depending on if they keep four backs, with Joshua Corbin, you can probably put him on the practice squad, unless he blows up preseason, then you're in trouble, Victor Cruz style. Or what will happen with him, he'll have that mysterious hamstring injury, like Victor Cruz, where it was like, he has a hamstring injury, he's going to come back. Then he doesn't come back. He never. And then he's on IR. And then the NFL's going to investigate to see if he has a real injury. It's what we call gamesmanship. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm really excited to see what goes on that end in terms of how, the Giants are going to utilize a lot of their talent going forward in the running back department. And it's interesting to see the dichotomy of the team, right? Because if you look at it, they have a lot that's going on. Let's hope that they get to 9/11. A day we'll all remember that healthy. And if they can do that, the Giants may actually have something, right? They actually have something going forward. I don't think people, Giant fans, are you're pushing down low here. Guys who think that all of a sudden it's just going to be a easy breezy time. I think against Tennessee, I think you might be sadly mistaken. Listen, I know people don't want to believe in Tennessee, but they're the top team in the AFC for a reason. Okay, that just doesn't go away. It just doesn't. I know they lost Antonio Brown, but they still talent-wise have a solid squad. And we all know what they're going to rely on. I know that people are like, Robert Woods. Robert Woods actually might be good for the Titans because he does what they need. Robert Woods was good for Buffalo. I think what happened in L.A., he was replaced by Odell Beckham Jr., who is essentially Robert Woods with more speed. They do a lot of the same things. Now, Robert Woods now, I don't know if I'm not telling you to pick him up on fantasy or anything like that, but I think, he's going to have a solid career. They're going to do it, by committee. Now, again, Ryan Tannehill's not the greatest, so I think the Giants have a chance to kind of fluster him. But if they block up front and they're rock, they're going to take it out of Tannehill's hands, and they're going to make us beat them. If we're blitzing over the middle and they're doing hot routes, the center of the field is going to be open. So I just want people to realize, don't go in here with your chest puffed up because you're not done anything. You know what I mean? I think the Giants are taking their excitement. Giant fans are taking our excitement, and we're now making it into bravado. Yeah, we got the right guys. Woo, woohoo! Yeah, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, who've done nothing at all. We know we're gonna kick ass because they went to the mall. You know what I mean? What? Just like you're saying, what with my silly rhyme? What? We don't even know what this team is looking like. This is not even the final product. The running back may not be here next year. The quarterback probably won't be here next year, right? The $200 million receiver may not be here next year. So there's a lot that's going on. If I'm Joe Shane, there's only two ways this season goes. If we're not in the playoffs, if we're 7-7 with 3 games to go, there's a shot you can make the playoffs. Okay, but if their Giants are 4-8 or something like that, it's time to pull the plug. You know what I'm saying? The Giants have a lot of games that against 50-50 teams who are also trying to win these games, like Chicago. You read about them. Who knows what they're going to be? The only team on the Giants' schedule that I deem they could win outright is Chicago. Everybody else is they're either better than the Giants or right there in terms of their rebuild. Houston. You look at them, they have a ton of players. Jacksonville got a ton of young rookies that they're going to be playing, right? And they won 3 games last year down the stretch. The Lions, they got Jared Goff. He got hot down the stretch last night, and he improved his season. Now, will he be that quarterback going forward? I have no idea. But we don't have time to be like, oh, you know what, we're going to beat this team. Especially because a lot of teams are innovative on offense as well. We're finally starting to see these rub routes and everything that's going on in Daboll's offense. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be an exciting offense to watch. It's going to be they not always execute because players execute. But there will be formations you have seen. There will be different things in the red zone, Good news is Daniel Bellinger, that's great news. To have him off the pup list early. You need him in the red zone. However, they were entertaining the thought of bringing in Eric Ebron. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. One, because Ricky Seals-Jones can then be kicked off the team. See you later. You have your guaranteed money. Bye. And then because right now, we want out. I think a lot of us as fans, we read highlights. We look at a lot of the things that are said. And, we look at it. It's hope. We hope that the guy is going to make potential. We hope that the player is going to reach up to our expectation level, which sometimes through the roof. Sometimes it's through the roof, And for me, I'm one of those guys as well. Sometimes, we get excited about a guy, and what happens. So he doesn't turn right, he gets injured, knock on wood. I don't want this to happen to Daniel Bellinger and all or anything like that. But I think what we overset expectations because of history or a player or hype, right? So who's hyping up? You know what I mean? Like Kayvon Thibodeau and Neal. At the very least, players are going to be good. Their attitudes alone can tell you that. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but I think I have cornerstones. Andrew Thomas, even though he was drafted by Get 'em, like him or not, he was that guy. he is that guy that's a cornerstone, right? A building block. Xavier McKinney, another guy. So Jolari, again, another regime change, right? You're hoping that these guys like Robinson, Azuda, and the rest of that draft class can do something in their 4 years with the team, right? They're going to be here, barring injury or complete collapse. You know what I mean? So let's hope these guys can do something because you never know. My good man Jeffrey, how's it going there, Jeffrey? How are you? Thanks for jumping on.
I'm reading about how you could stay healthy this fall, just like all the good little tips that you could figure out on how to keep yourself very healthy going into the fall season. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah, don't be a Giant fan. I'm good. I'm good. I'm sitting here. I'm talking about training camp, and I started with Kyler Murray and that add-on contract that he had, and things like that. But now I'm on the Giants. I'm talking about training camp, and I'm just talking about how we kind of overinflate guys in the draft because we have hopes for them, right? We believe Kayvon Thibodeau. I believe, and I think most likely Kayvon Thibodeau, bare minimum, is going to be a good player, right? Bare minimum, I think the Giants have a good player. He may not be, great or a Hall of Famer or whatever, but bare minimum, him and Evan Neal, right? But guys like Josh Udo or Wan'Dale Robinson, we're hoping that they contribute in their 4 years of being here with the team. You know what I mean? You hope that they can be here and be part of this rebuild. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm excited for this. But there are things that are roadblocks to me. As I'm reading some of these publications, listening to NFL Network, watching across the league, some of these teams are not lying down. Like Jaguars, they're not lying down. The Lions, they had an improved team. They got rid of Anthony, I think who it was, and now they brought in a new offensive coordinator, right? So who knows if that's going to change. So what I'm saying is the Giants need to focus on the fundamentals, building a good team, and putting a good product out there. Yes, you're going to win games. Yes, you're going to score touchdowns. But at the end of the day, if you end up losing a few games and you're out of the playoffs and you're 7-10, that should not be a disappointment to you. That should be like, all right, we got the bad season out of the way now. Now let's see what we can do to retool. And that's where I think we're going to go. Like I was saying, like Daniel Bellinger, as much as I like him, he's still going to have growing pains,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think a lot of what you hear right now and what you see is just fans being hyped up, and I'm guilty of it too because I was doing it a lot yesterday, like seeing some of the plays that were being made in the first day of training camp. You're a fan, you're hyped up, football's back, like you're excited to see these guys back on the field. And as a Giant fan, as we all know as Giant fans, we're just looking for anything to grasp on that's going to be any type of positive. So, like when you see some of these kids out there, you see some type of upside that they have, you're going to think maybe they could finally, maybe they could show something during the rookie year and they could surprise. But, I mean, you're absolutely right that we don't know what these guys are. And you could even say the same thing about Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. As much as we think that these guys are going to be pretty much, automatics going in there, they're going to be very good players to start. We really don't even know. They got to go out there and they got to show it on the field. But it's hype. It's everybody's hyped up. It's the beginning of the football season, okay? So you can understand why everybody's like excited and like thinking that the ice cream is delicious. Everybody's high in the air. Like I'm trying to think of some euphemisms for it, but everybody's just excited.
Right. I get it. Cloud nine. You know what I call it?
Cloud nine.
You know what I think it is? It's like the honeymoon phase, right? You're all sushi and kissy-tucky and whatever, right? And then 6 months in, you're like, I hate this person. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
What I'm hoping is that we, what I like. Here are some things that I like. I like the direction of these two gentlemen, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I understand that this is going to be a rebuild process, so it's going to probably take 2 or 3 years to rebuild. So, as a Giant fan, I can't be upset unless they completely bomb out and win like one game. Then you can be upset, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I also believe that if you look at all the regime changes that have happened before, in order to do it right, you've got to do everything correct. You've got to let these guys take the quarterback that they want, not the one that they inherited. Right? You get Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They had Jimmy Garoppolo. They drafted Trey Lance, or maybe it was Mac Jones, but they took Trey Lance, whatever the case may be. But they have Trey Lance. And my question comes, well, if you drafted Trey Lance number 3, then what does that say about Jimmy G? This means the start of this year, Kyle Shanahan is going to be reflective. This could cost him his job if he's wrong. It really could. It's one of those franchise-altering moves that could cost him his job. But at least it's his quarterback that he's going to be going down with. If Daniel Jones ends up sucking, there's no ties. To me, my legacy doesn't want to be dependent on this guy. Get your own guy in here. Let him fail or succeed. Then if you need to get a Jimmy Garoppolo because he has failed, then you move on. But I always think you need a clean slate and everything. You look at what Kansas City did. They reached Mahomes. They smartly took a quarterback who they knew was going to get him over the top. They knew Alex Smith was only a certain level,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, nobody here is tied to Daniel Jones. We all know that. We all just want to go out there and see what Daniel Jones can do in this offense. And if he's not good, you just get rid of him. We've all established that during the offseason that Daniel Jones can't get the job done this year. He's gone. We'll just see the guys draft their own guys. So that's not a problem. And that goes with everybody else on this roster. They're all being evaluated this year to see what type of significance they can bring to this organization, not this year, but not just this year, but years beyond. Like everybody that's not drafted or signed by Brian Dable and Joe Schoen are being evaluated to see what their long-term future is with the New York Football Giants.
Well, I think, like I said, I think they're kind of on the right track. Let's see if they get more hits than misses than the last regime, But I get the feeling that these guys are pretty good. I don't think the team is fully where we want it to be. I know people are excited. I'm totally excited. I'm going to be jumping, screaming, yelling on 9/11 on 4/15 when we play Tennessee Titans. And I want to just tell Giant fans, don't underestimate that Titans team. I know a lot of fans are starting to say, we can beat the Titans. There's one thing to be optimistic. There's another thing to be, too much bravado. We haven't done much to get that bravado. It's just, I'm not telling you don't be excited, but the AFC is juggernaut. And the Tennessee Titans, whether they're a juggernaut or not, I know they lost to Cincinnati, were the top team for a reason. Okay? Tied record with Kansas City. And had a better record than the Buffalo Bills.
I mean, right? I'm not worried about the Titans necessarily because I think they do have their deficiencies as well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, their wide receiver core is very weak. My brother's a longtime Titans fan, and he's even told me before, like he's worried about the Giants because of that pass rush. And I think that a lot of this game is going to be dependent on which defense is going to show up more when it comes to game time, because I think it's going to be a very defensive game between the Giants and the Titans, as I think both teams have a suspect offensive line until proven otherwise. I think the Giants might have the advantage in terms of their total skill set of players because Tennessee took such hits to their wide receiver core. Their offensive line's not as good as it used to be, but you can't discount how good that defense is on Tennessee and the type of coach that Mike Vrabel is. I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. He calls it aggressive style of a defense. They have a tremendous pass rush. I love Kevin Byard at the safety position. I think it's going to be whatever team can make the least amount of mistakes in that game, and whatever team can, put the most pressure on the opposing quarterback to force mistakes is going to come out as a victory in that, come out as a winner in that game. Because I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think we can beat Tennessee, but I think it's going to be a tougher game than a lot of people think. But I'm not scared of Tennessee necessarily because I don't think they're the same team that they were in the past. And if you could find a way to stop Derrick Henry on the offensive side of the ball, you should have a good chance to be able to stifle that Tennessee offense.
I want to say this. I don't disagree about being scared. You shouldn't be scared of any team. However, experience matters and playing together matters. And this team, has a good coach, decent quarterback, pretty good running backs. The receiving core is it's moderate. It's it's not great in terms of receivers. Let me look at their roster here. I have it pulled up. So wide receivers. Treylon Burks is probably gonna start. They have Austin Hooper as a tight end, not bad. They have Jeff Swain, who's also not bad, and they have Robert Woods coming back. So Robert Woods isn't terrible, but this is going to be a predominantly northeast type of offense, build on the running backs. Then you got their linemen are Taylor Lewan, which is pretty good. They got their rookie from Ohio State. Then they have Nate Davis, and then another guy in Dylan who's coming into his own. So we'll see how they develop. Then of course they have the running back Derrick Henry, who is an absolute beast. And if he is the pre-injury Derrick Henry, then a lot of that is going to be a focal point. And I know you say, yeah, let's stop Derrick Henry, as if it's something that's an easy feat. A lot of teams try. Yes, exactly. And then on defense, their defense is pretty good. Like, people need to underestimate that. Their defensive linemen, at least in this book that I have, is pretty good, rated pretty good. The linebackers have some up-and-coming guys, Cunningham, and their secondary is probably their weakest point because of all the guys that are, are coming back injuries and stuff like that, right? So that's probably the weakest point on defense. But their defensive line is pretty good. Now, I'm not saying to be afraid of them. I'm just saying this is a playoff team. They're going to be looking at this game as a way to keep pace. Because right now in the AFC South, we believe that the Indianapolis Colts have done enough to put themselves over the top, right?
Absolutely.
And Jacksonville and Houston are not going to be easy outs for anybody. So for me, I think the Giants, the Tennessee Titans, need this game more than the Giants personally. And I think the Giants just need to go out there and have a good effort and show you that they're a competent football team and that they can play with the likes of this team, because that will keep them in a lot of these games, okay? Because these teams matter. These things matter. Experience matters. There's going to be mistakes. I already see it. I already heard it's happening with the receivers and Daniel Jones. Not because it's on purpose, but because the autonomy of the play. They haven't played together much yet. There's still some different nuances of the game because, again, there are not set routes. You're running your route, or you have a slant route. But normally, maybe 2 steps, do a shimmy, and then maybe break inside, right? This time, they have the autonomy to get off the line, however they want. They want to do a spin move. They want to do backflips. They have virtually, Brian Daboll told them, just get open and run your route. So, but that also have options as well, meaning that if Kadarius Toney says, well, let's say Jalen Ramsey, I'm just using names, for example, right? Let's say that Jalen Ramsey is playing Kadarius Toney, and Kadarius says, well, I can beat him to the outside. Daniel says, well, he runs a slant on this play, right? Rams are bringing a blitz. Kadarius reads it one way, Jones reads another, and now it's a pick six on the sideline. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is going to happen a lot. Hopefully happen early this year. So by the time the end of the year happens, those kinks are already worked out, because that's what I see happening. A lot of this stuff is on air. One thing that does concern me is the offensive line is not picking up a lot of the defense that's going on against them. They had Kayvon Thibodeau basically running free, which probably would have been a sack against Daniel Jones. But because they're not hitting him, Daniel Jones can stand in there and throw the ball because they have to complete the play, and it's a touchdown to Kadarius Toney. Now, if that's a real game, is that a sack fumble by Kadarius? I mean, by Kayvon?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, there's also a play where he threw a pick, which would have been pick six to Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson can't catch for the life of him, but there are some things that concern me. Now, of course, Giant.com is not going to tell you that, but they're like, oh, great throw here.
But Jones did make some nice throws in that practice. I mean, that corner end zone throw to Toney was pretty nice. He did throw it in the only spot that Toney could catch it. And that other fade throw that he played through to Robinson over McKinney, that was a pretty nice throw too. See, it's a mixed bag. Yeah, it's a mixed bag here from Jones.
Right, but a lot of those throws are because they're continuing the practice, which you need to do, right? Because he's not getting sacked. So while I like the throw and the placement, is he in the turf there, right? So these are a lot of things you have to work on in practice. They're not even going to hit him in practice when the pads come on. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of throws that he should have had back. Like there was one, they did the same play to Robinson, and I think Robinson kind of underdid the play, but it's a throw that needs to be made to the guy. He's open. He's got a step. You've got to put it in a spot where you can get it, not overthrow him. So it's just, these are the type of things. And the interception by Darnay Holmes was a complete terrible play by Daniel Jones. He completely stared down Barkley, and Holmes baited him into the throw. These are the things that can't happen against teams.
He can't stare down his one receiver again, because that's going to get him in a lot of trouble. And I just saw on a couple of the plays that were happening today. Daniel Jones was staring down Barkley on a touchdown that happened in the red zone today at practice, but he can't do that because if he keeps staring down a single receiver, the defenses are going to pick that up and they're going to jump in for the pick. Daniel Jones has got to scan the field, but he's got to trust his offensive line that they're going to hold up long enough for him to allow to scan the field. So it's like the best play off each other.
But I think the thing is, though, is Daniel Jones is not wired like that. He is wired for him to watch the field and throw. Because if you watch the touchdown play to Robinson, his head doesn't move. Now, if you watch Tyrod Taylor, it's like you're watching a completely different quarterback. The guy is sliding up in the pocket, moving around, making throws, check downs, and you're like, interesting. But when I watch Daniel Jones, some of his highlights, I know he's supposed to go to Barkley on a touchdown, but I'm not liking that you're keeping your head locked on guys. Because you're having that happen now, guess what's going to happen come Tennessee when they're doing something, right? And you motion out Barkley from the backfield to the play, and you're looking over there, and they're kind of like, and you underthrow the ball slightly, right? Or you stare down the receiver slightly. The guy's going to bait you. Darnay Holmes baited him. That's all he did. He was like, "Oh, you're going to stare down Barkley? I'm going to wait, get just close enough where he knows that if he goes to Barkley, he's going to make the play." And Daniel Jones was like, and he just threw it. And, of course, the guy, kudos to Darnay Holmes for making an exceptional play. Right?
That was a nice play. Holmes has made some nice plays so far.
And
Although
I think
he just got burned on one play by Richie James in practice. He got tripped. He literally got turned into a pretzel on a nice route by James over in practice before. That's another guy I'm looking forward to seeing. Richie James could be a sneaky guy that could sneak on this roster. Is not only a return man, but it's a possible veteran receiver you could throw into this wide receiver core because he's got that type of skill set that fits in exactly what Dable and Kafka are looking for. A twitchy wide receiver that can go it can occasionally go deep as well. So watch out for Richie James. That's a name to look out for in terms of maybe making the 53-man roster.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's Twitter feed up, guys. You want to go on Giants.com or Twitter, that they'll have a feed for you of what's going on. Like Jeff said, they throw touchdowns at Daniel Bellinger. But again, this is practice. You can only see certain things.
The pads are not even on yet, too. The pads are not even on. They don't come on until Monday. So the hitting hasn't even started.
Yes. So the thing is, Golladay had a body catch. Jones has a beautiful throw to Golladay, ran across. You know what I mean? They are what they are. This is practice. Again, the chaos doesn't start till 9/11. And that's what I'm really going to make my evaluations. There are certain things I'm going to check here to see if, for example, Daniel Jones stare down. If he's not doing that in practice, that's going to be a turn of mine going into the game, going into the season. If he hasn't improved that, it already seems like he hasn't improved it.
Well,
it's getting. I know he doesn't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, finish your point first. I was going to ask you a couple of questions when you're done.
Right. So I just need him to improve on that, and we'll see. Richie James, like you say, I'm intrigued. He has special teams ability, so we'll see what happens there.
But I had a couple of questions for you, Adam. I talked about it last night on the Big Blue Crew when we did our the Big Blue Crew show. A couple of what do you think right now are the strengths of this New York Giants team currently constructed at the moment, and what are the weaknesses? That's the first question. For me personally, I think the offensive line at the offensive tackle position might actually be one of the strengths, which is just incredible to actually say with how bad this offensive line has been for years, because I actually feel comfortable with Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas at the offensive tackle position. The interior, I don't know yet, but I actually feel comfortable with those guys. I think the defensive line, the front four, can be special this year. I really believe that those four guys put together can be a very, very, very improved, part of this unit going forward. It could actually help this defense out a lot with the pressure they can bring. And I think if they stay healthy, the playmakers on this offense could be very good too, because we know the upside of them, how good they could potentially be, but can they actually stay on the field? And I just want to hear how you feel about that, and then you can go over what you think are the weaknesses on the team as well.
Well, I think the strengths for me, I think I'm intrigued by certain players, such as Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. I think I went over. I think are Thomas and Neal right now on the offensive line. Gallinski has some flaws, but you spent money on him, so they're hoping something comes from it. But I don't see him in the long term plan much either. Then I would go. I really am intrigued by Kadarius Toney. I think he could be a strength healthy. Barkley is a pretty good player. And then on the defensive side, I would look at the edge rusher. The edge group is pretty good in terms of Ojulari and Thibodeau. And then I would also say I like a few guys secondary. Weakness is our linebacking core.
Agreed.
I know like Martinez, but to me, like, what do you have after Blake Martinez, right? You have a bunch of unproven guys, and Dave Crowder, who, let's be honest, is a mixed bag of tricks, So we'll see what happens in that regard. So I'm not necessarily so it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I go just strengths. The biggest weakness I have right now is the uncertainty, the uncertainty of what's going to happen. That's my biggest weakness of this team is we have no idea how things are going to respond and what Brian Daboll can do. People are, like I said, people are excited, and we heard some things about Joe Judge and Pat Shurmur. Hey, Pat Shurmur has this, and look at the wheel route that Saquon Barkley ran, and blah blah blah. Oh, Judge, he's a taskmaster. We're all excited, But I think what I'm intrigued by is what they come out and look like on 9/11. Because right now I can be about everything, but if these guys don't get healthy, it means nothing. What are they going to look like on 9/11? Right now.
I just watched a replay of Tyrod Taylor actually did a nice job escaping out of the pocket, and of course Darius Slayton drops the friggin' ball. What a shock!
What else is new? Everyone tells me
the sky being blue and water being wet.
He's gone. I'm sorry, he's gone. He's gone. Especially with a guy like Richie James catching passes left and right.
Galladay's dropping balls too. That's the second or third drop Galladay's had.
Listen, this is what I'm talking about. Don't the whole kumbaya, smoke and mirrors, all that stuff. It's all smoke and mirrors. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. These drops from Slayton, and you're gonna drop passes. I get it, but these are when you need to build. We don't have a team and a quarterback yet that can overcome mistakes like this, that can overcome drop balls, that can overcome fumbles, right? Guys like Mahomes can throw an interception, but then throw 3 touchdown passes on top of that. And you're like,
It just seems like there's no chemistry with Jones and Galladay. I don't know what it is about these two, but the chemistry is just not there. Galladay's dropping passes that are right in his breadbasket. Because it just seems like they're off. They just can't get any type of chemistry between the two of them.
Well, because Daniel Jones was injured for most of the training camp, like off season that you normally would be working out in Florida. He was rehabbing at a giant facility, right? So yes, they came in for OTA in this play, but timing is going to be a key. They're not going to have the timing down come week 1. They're just not. There's not enough time, right? They spent even Sean O'Hara said it before. They said they spent 6 weeks in late April and May and June doing all this on the field work, right? Most of it's drills and all that crap. So this is the first time they're really getting together. And like I said, we don't know. I don't know the passing because I can't watch everything, and I'm going to have to hop off in about 15 minutes because I have something I need to do. I want to come in and get a quick show while we're here. But these are the type of things that passes annoy me. Now, bad routes annoy me. Meanwhile, guys like Wendell Robinson and absolutely blowing up practice, making guys look foolish. And here we are talking about the same shit.
Well, that's why I made my prediction before. I said outlandish. I think Wandale Robinson is going to have this. Is going to be the number 2 receiver on this team going forward because I really believe that he's such a good system fit. I think he's an underrated route runner. I think he's got good quickness in and out of his routes. He's deceptively fast, and you could put this guy all over the offense. He's a perfect system fit for what Kafka and Daboll want to run in this offense. Well, him and Toney. I think both these guys are the exact type of receivers that they're looking for.
You're right, because Toney is more like a Stephon Diggs, and Robinson's like a Beasley, right? So they need their third guy to be a Gabriel Davis. And let's be real, man. Kenny Galladay on this team next year.
No.
His cap number is gone. Bye
He
bye.
can't
See you
run.
later.
He can't run. He can't get separation. He's as slow as can be. The only thing you hope for is that he can go over there and use his big body to try to pluck the ball out of the air, and as well as try to body a smaller corner to get a catch. That's what you hope. If he's
Right.
dropping these easy passes, I mean, what are you going to do with the guy? I think that's the thing too, Adam, that we're wondering is that this guy's such an odd system fit because Dable and Kafka have really never had a wide receiver like Kenny Galladay on the roster who is a
Right.
big
Well,
receiver that can't separate.
well, the thing is this: is that he's meant for the Eric Coryell, Jason Garrett system, play action,
Exactly.
deep. You know what I mean? He's not built for the little plays that they run here. Now, if they run the Gabriel Davis type routes, which again, Josh Allen has a laser beam for an arm. I mean, and this you can't take things away from people, right? They're only Boomer said the Giants can be sneaky dangerous. Let's see this. Let me get that comment up there. He says Boomer Esiason this morning says the Giants can be sneaky dangerous. Says our own line like very sorry. Shut up, Boomer Esiason. Give me a break. Like everyone's jumping on the bandwagon till they don't jump on the bandwagon. Okay, we've not seen these guys play. Let's get them in there first. Okay, like this guy Brian Ball, I love him, but is he Bill Parcells? You know, are these players going to be here that long? They haven't been in pads yet. They're getting beat right now in shorts by the defense.
I don't want to hear from Boomer Esiason. Let him go root for the Jets. He's a Jet. Let him go root for him. Okay?
Boomer Esiason, while I like the guy, is not the end all be all. I don't just take guys' opinions and run with it. That's what they are. They're opinions. Like, all right, cool. Bet. They're not gospel. All right. I think a lot of people think that they're gospel because Boomer Esiason says it. Half these guys are wrong. Most of them are wrong. And I'm not saying I'm right or I know more than these guys. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they have a radio show to do. They have to, be optimistic. But if the Giants off the line sucks this year, is Boomer Esiason going to be like, yeah, back in July 28th, I thought the Giants were going to be good? No, he's going to be like, oh, well, I predicted they were going to be bad, blah, blah, blah. Because when you talk out of both sides of your mouth, that's what happens. That's exactly what happened.
Adam, I was talking about this last night too. I was going over what player right now on this 90-man roster that we have not really been talking about a whole lot you think has a possibility to sneak on the roster that maybe you did not expect when training camp first started, and then the opposite too. What player on this roster do you think that you thought was originally going to be a lock to make the roster is going to be on the outside looking in?
I think Ricky Seals-Jones is going to be on the outside looking in. I probably am wrong. They probably will bring him, but if he doesn't perform, he could be on the bubble. And a guy who I thought may not make the team. Well, it's kind of early to tell, but let me bring up the roster real quick just so I can see everybody's name.
It's just like changing every 2 seconds.
Right. They already signed somebody. They just signed Austin Calitro. I don't know who the heck that is, but he's a linebacker.
He's a 4-year linebacker. They need help at that linebacker position. I'm scared to death of that.
They're going to sign me in a few minutes. They're going to sign me.
Well, you know what? You might be as good as the guys they have because we don't know what they are. It is such a scary. I'm scared to death of that inside linebacker position. I really am.
You know who I'm interested in seeing that I think is going to make the team?
Who's that?
I think Ricky James is going to make the team.
I'm glad you said that. I think so too.
I think he's going to make the team over C.J. Board, and here's why: because he can return specialists. You can C.J. Board. While everybody loves him, he's replaceable. He just is. I'm sorry. You can put a Gunner out there. You can put Holmes out there. You can put anybody out there if you wanted to. Aaron Robinson and Rodarius Williams. What I'm interested in seeing is Cordell Flott right now. I know he's getting a lot of burn right now, but I think he needs to add a couple more pounds of muscle. He's 6'1", so he has the frame to do it. Let him get in the program a little bit. I think Cordell Flott at some point will be the second guy because, again, that was a drafted pick by – this regime. Aaron Robinson. I like Aaron Robinson, but I think he's going to be burned. Darnay Holmes, though, that's the guy I really want to see flourish.
He's intriguing. He's such an intriguing player because when he has opportunities, he's made plays. He's been burned, too. I think he's weak when it comes to, the run defense. He misses tackles sometimes too much. But when it comes to, his coverage skills, they're not that bad. I would not mind seeing Darnay Holmes get an opportunity here, and I think that's one of the best competitions you'll be seeing training camp is the battle at that slot cornerback position between Cordell Flott and Darnay Holmes. I think it's going to be really fun to see.
Here's a question from AK. With these young, talented receivers, where does Kenny Golladay stand? Kenny Golladay is on a short leash, AK. I think you'll see if these guys emerge, the young receivers, his role will be reduced. Because let's be honest, how many times have you seen Kenny Golladay take a end around or a little bubble screen?
Never. He's your prototypical X-receiver, 6'4", 220-pound guy that's not going to be known as a speed threat. He's your jump ball guy. That's all. He's a possession receiver. That's always going to be in this offense. Is pretty much is a big, tall possession receiver.
Right.
I mean, that's not really. That's kind of what his role should be right now. You can't separate. He's too slow. He's not a system fit.
So I hear you. Say here's Patricia Trainer. Rough day so far for Darius Slayton, who's had 2 bad drops, including one on a deep ball. Bye.
Slayton's playing himself off the roster, and I can't believe I've been actually behind Slayton's pause. I've actually been saying that Slayton could possibly be a guy that could still have a chance on this roster because of the fact that he still has that speed aspect to him, but this guy can just not catch. I don't know what it is about Darius Slayton, but he cannot catch the ball. And when you said about Richie James, I think Richie James is not replacing C.J. Board. I think he's replacing Darius Slayton.
You might be right. Maybe the Darius Slayton, maybe C.J. Board takes that spot.
Yeah, because I think Richie James is going to be – he's a good system fit. He's twitchy. He can run those, go routes very well. He's an underrated speed wide receiver, and he's also very good in terms of being in the kick and punt return. And Adam, what's one of the weakest parts of our special teams for so many years?
Return game.
Exactly. We have not had a return game with the New York Giants, and I don't even know where. Even Dwayne Harris back in 2016, 2017, he was okay.
Technically, Odell Beckham Jr. was the most dynamic punt returner we had.
Exactly. We have not had a return game with the New York Giants in so long, and I think Richie James might be one of those guys that will give us the best chance to give us a good, solid return game if he can stay healthy. Because no disrespect to C.J. Board, I think he's a very good coverage. He's a very good coverage guy on special teams. I can see why Thomas McGahee loves this guy and why he likes him on the roster. But at the same time, with Richie James, I think this guy has got an opportunity to really carve out a solid role with the special teams unit going forward.
So I want to address this last question and then close it out with a quick comment on special teams that you made, and then I have to kind of get on with my day. But let's go with this. So with this being DJ's final year and this prove it year, so to speak, do you think guys gave him a fair shot with the wide receivers you have this year? Daniel Jones has a fair shot, AK. He's been in the league 4 years. I don't give a – we brought in Kenny Golladay. We brought in Kadarius Toney, Daniel Bellinger. He has freaking Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Give me a break. This guy has had enough chances already. If he can't do it, go to the unemployment line. I'll see you when I see you, okay? Anyways.
This is Daniel Jones' chance. No more excuses. I mean, we might have given him excuses in the past. This is it. He's got everything on the table.
I don't care if guys go down. I don't care if the entire
I agree. It's no excuses now. You got to go out there and you got to prove it.
I don't care if the entire receiving core goes down with injury or is out with COVID-19 and he can't play with it. I don't care. You play with what you got, okay? I'm tired of it.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, Adam. It's no more excuses with this guy. He's got to go out there and he's got to prove it. So
I'm just saying.
It's all on him, and I mean, he's got the players on if the players could actually stay healthy, I mean, maybe they could actually – maybe I think if the offense can't stay healthy, and I keep saying the word friggin' maybe, and I can't keep saying it, but you got to put it out there. If these guys can stay healthy, I think this offense does have potential to be something. I think they can be a pretty good offense if they stay healthy. But it's all dependent on that, and it's all dependent on how this offensive line gels, period. But it's just – we don't see it.
I'm just – you ask a question that it just gets on my nerves that we have every excuse in the book for this kid and not the excuse of can he produce? Because the last time I checked, you have a team and all the factors that you factor in, but at the end of the day, you've got to produce. Gardner Minshew is winning games in Jacksonville. He has nobody's on his team. He was winning games. Nobody's. And we're sitting here talking 4 years later, this guy can't elevate his team. He's a 6th overall pick. I have guys like Gardner Minshew and Case Keenum winning games. Give me a break. What else do you need from this kid? I'm just tired of this shit. I'm just tired of it. I hope he goes out and has a great season and proves me wrong. I hope he does. You know what? And I'm eating fried chicken as crow on Sundays. But what I've seen hasn't done anything. And in practice, what I've seen are some of the same stuff he's still doing already. They don't want to accentuate it or talk about it because that would damage the narrative. That would damage the man's confidence. That would damage the brain trust in here, okay? Because if the brain trust doesn't trust Daniel Jones, they look like fools, right?
Well, you just said the key word right there, too, Adam, is confidence. Where's Daniel Jones' confidence right now? Because if this guy is just so mentally just gone from what happened to him his previous few years, especially with Joe Judge the past couple of years, if he just has no confidence in himself, and when the plays start breaking down in front of him and Daniel Jones panics because he's just so used to what happened to him before, that's what's really going to ultimately be the downfall of Daniel Jones this year is his confidence. He's got to try to play more as a confident quarterback and be able to go through his progressions. If the play breaks down in front of him, Daniel Jones has got to try to make something out of nothing. It's all on him right now, and it's all on these playmakers to help him out too. It's got to be a team effort with this team, not just Daniel Jones. It's got to be everybody working as a unit on this offense.
It's got to be Daniel Jones elevating the bar, okay? Because you're looking at teams like Philadelphia. You're looking at teams like the Redskins. They've got quarterbacks that at some point they got – Philadelphia is trying to figure out if they have their quarterback. They're putting out all the pieces around him. There's no excuse for this kid. If he fails, they can be out quick on him because they give him everything. If he ascends to the next level, which they hope he becomes, that's it. Daniel Jones has been in here 4 years. Every turn, left and right. Mind you, he was picked 2 regimes ago. He's a 2-regime quarterback. He was picked by Pat Shurmur when Pat Shurmur's offense was what he needed to do. Oh, well, he throws a great deep ball. I don't give a damn what, I can't have him. I don't want his rookie year either. He's got to be better than that. 4 years in, I can't have you be your rookie year. I have to have you be a quarterback that's more than on the rise. What have you seen that allows you to be a quarterback on the rise? Because there's guys like that have been injured, like Trevor Lawrence, right? You're seeing him as a quarterback on the rise. At the end of the games, he started to improve. Zach Wilson, he's starting to improve. Daniel Jones hasn't improved outside of a few games. That's it. You know what I mean?
This is his chance right now to go out there and change the narrative. He's got to go out there and prove to everybody that this guy, he can be a legit quarterback in this league. And if he can't, adios, Daniel Jones. We've all said that a million times. Daniel Jones will be out of here. We can't do it.
Don't. First off, don't tell me to relax, okay? But here's the thing. I like Robinson. I like Holmes. I love McKinney. Robinson. What I'm worried about is who's going to be our free safety next year because Julian Love is not here next year, and Dane Belton hasn't proven anything yet. And for me. I'm loving those cornerstones. Holmes may not make it here either, but we'll see. But anyways, last thing I'll say about special teams, I want a guy who, when you kick the ball to him, you're scared. You're scared that he's going to take it to the house and he becomes a weapon for the Giants and people can second guess him. Otherwise, if you're not scared and you do fair catch, like everyone like Ruben Randall, like that guy didn't do anything but fair catch. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was just boring. You know what I mean? So anyways, like I said, Jeff, tell them where they can find you.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on the channel this morning, Adam. I appreciate it always. You can find me at NYGJeffyT3285. I cover the New York Giants, the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Mets, WWE Wrestling, and occasionally I drop a little bit of food stuff occasionally from now and then. I work with my guy over here on the left, and we do the Premium Take Show every single Sunday. We're going to be moving to Saturday once the football season starts. You can catch me, Adam, Mac the Giants fan, Zion Zenith, Premium Takes this coming Sunday. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Thursday, and let's go New York Football Giants. We'll see what this team's going to bring to the table this year. Thank you for having me on the show this morning, Adam.
Everybody, thanks for having taking the time out to listen. You can find me, like he said, on Premium Takes, where we're going to go over everything training camp. And then you can find the Hurry Up, where I do occasional live spots like this when I'm, bored or just a topic comes up. I also have a Hurry Up stand-up where I do a quick blurb on news that I've heard. And then next Wednesday, We're starting next Wednesday, the NFC East Roundup with Matt, the Giant fan, and myself. We're going to go through all things training camp. You're going to hear it all. The storylines, the history, what's going on. This has been another edition of the Hurry Up. Jeffrey, thank you so much. People in the chat, thank you so much. AK, Miz, thank you for listening. I enjoyed the show. I've got to go. Wish me luck. Enjoy. Have a God bless day.